if a client is going to hire someone for a job, normally they're going to have the same touch points with multiple freelancers. And when I say touch point, I just mean they see something about you, they have some sort of interaction with you, there's some sort of impression. And so the touch points normally are in a hiring process with multiple freelancers, okay, you and your competitors. They're going to see the proposal message that each freelancer writes. They're going to see the timing of that message, okay, who was up first to apply, who was second, and so on. They're going to see your profile. They're going to see your call booking process if you have one. Are you using like a call scheduling link like Calendly or something similar? And then they're going to have a call with you. All of those little touch points are going to occur with, let's say, 3 to 5 different freelancers per job that gets hired for. And in a lot of niches, they are competitive, right? There's multiple skilled people. There's people with years of experience. They're all good at the thing. Let's say it's graphic design, designing a poster. A lot of people can design a great poster. And actually, a lot of them might have the similar price. So the client who's hiring for their poster design, they end up doing 3 call interviews with 3 different people. They want to pick the best one. They have those touch points with those people.
Hey Rob, I think you're guest number 3 on this podcast. Thanks for joining this ride with me. I appreciate your time and you being here. And yeah, let's dive in and see where this takes us. So I want to understand how you got into Upwork and really how you started freelancing on Upwork.
Sure. So I was traveling in Indonesia, in Bali, and I had left Canada with a few digital advertising freelance clients from the hometown I grew up in. And those projects had started to dry up, and I had to find a way to earn projects while I was traveling. And literally, it was like, yeah, I could continue traveling around the world and working, which was like the most fun I was ever having, or I could go back to my hometown, which I really didn't like. It's a small city in Canada called London, Ontario. So I had to figure out something, and I stumbled onto Upwork, and Upwork eventually became my go-to spot for full-time income while I was working remotely and traveling.
When was that? How many years ago?
This would have been in probably around 2017, I think. So almost 5 years ago.
All right. W- Did you do any specific jobs on Upwork when you started?
Yeah, so when I initially got onto Upwork, I was doing the same type of work I had done before I got into freelancing. So I was doing Google Ads, setup and management, a lot of that stuff. And that's definitely what I started with. Eventually, though, what I now do for the last 2 to 3 years is actually just work on helping other Upworkers do things like optimize their profile, learn how to send better proposals, handle their calls, these kind of things so that they can do better on Upwork. So I actually don't do any more digital advertising, digital marketing,
Hmm.
freelance work, and I just focus on Upwork optimization now.
All right, that's interesting. So how did the shift happen? So how did you decide to go from Google Ads and optimization to helping people with their Upwork profiles? What happened?
Yeah. Well, basically, after a few years, like about 2 or 3 years into my travels, and roughly about 2 or 3 years into working on Upwork, doing the freelance digital advertising work, I started reflecting. Wow, these last few years have been really the some of the biggest changes in my entire life. I've really grown a lot. I've really enjoyed these last few years. Like what did I have to change to have this happen? And I was reflecting like, okay, success on Upwork was one thing, starting to get into yoga was another, meditation, and exploring a plant-based diet. And so I actually came up with a retreat. It was called the Mindful Nomads Retreat. And the idea was basically to take these kind of simple practices that really changed my life. It took me many years to kind of stumble into them and figure them out, or start practicing or using them anyways. And upon reflection, I was like, well, it doesn't need to take years, I think, to get a ton of benefit with them. And so the idea of the Mindful Nomads Retreat was kind of like a week-long boot camp where people could dip their toes into these different things and hopefully leave, basically a better person, or being have been happy they joined and really got something meaningful out of it. And so doing that first retreat forced me to take what was working for me personally with Upwork and distill that into a process that was teachable and repeatable, something that I could actually show to other people. And so that led to like a V1 version of kind of my Upwork course. And from then on, I just kind of kept pushing on trying to help people with that. And it wasn't a overnight switch. It took me probably a year before I could generate a full-time income from just supporting people with Upwork. But that was kind of roughly what the process looked like.
Got it. Can you tell a bit more about the transition? Like, you said it wasn't up until a year when you started making money. Bless. I'd be interested to kind of know, like, how did you transition from doing your client work into potentially doing this new thing?
Sure. So in the background of all this, when I started my travels, I started a website called the Digital Nomads Forum. It was an online forum where people who wanted to work remotely and travel could come to discuss all about that. And that had been running in the background while I was traveling, while I was on Upwork, and eventually we got some traction. So currently, I think there's around 16,000 members. Back a couple years ago, whatever, we had at least several thousand. And that was also inspiration for getting into this, because the number one thing aspiring digital nomads struggled with was how to get work, how to get remote clients, how to earn while moving around. And I didn't have the answer for everybody, but for the people who had skills that were on Upwork, I had start to felt like, I get this. I get how to win projects on Upwork, and I can help other people with it. So in that transition, outside of kind of doing this retreat, also starting to post content and engage with people in my website, which eventually just became a Facebook group, with, hey, I know what your problem is, because you all say the same thing, or most of you do anyways. This is your problem if you want to do it. Here's one way that I've solved it that's working for me. So, just sprinkling in helpful things. And eventually I spent quite a bit of money on a course and in-person conference with a marketing teacher called Jeff Walker. He's kind of the father of launching, which we've probably all seen on in our inboxes, specifically emails trying to kind of like lead us into buying things. Some people do it much more crappily and spammily. Other people do it really effectively and helpfully. And so I kind of dabbled into his methodology for how to take like a course or some sort of information related project or product, like coaching, and how to kind of package it together and share it with people, so that eventually, of course, hopefully, you have an opportunity to be financially compensated for actually helping someone with that information that you've pulled together. And so I think my first launch, it was a failure and a huge success. So in my mind, it was supposed to be a whole bunch of people signing up. We're going to do this group course together, and what actually happened was one person signed up, and I think it only cost like $800, which is at that time a fraction of what it costs now to work with me in the same capacity. But it was a start. It was the first stranger, someone I didn't know, who said, yeah, okay, I'll pay you to help me with this. And so I didn't make a lot of money from that or anything, but it was that first success. And it just kind of, there's a whole story to it, but you keep stepping. It took me a year to go from, I guess, that first step to, okay, full-time clients, helping them with Upwork.
How did it feel to get that first client?
Well, it was really mixed. So that the first client, it was like a week-long launch in the marketing effort I was making. So basically, people could sign up for a full week. And so this person signed up a couple days. So the first 2 days, no one signed up. I'm like sweating, just put all this work in, nothing's happening. Then someone signs up and I can't even believe it. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm just so ecstatic, so exciting. It was a huge win. But then, my expectation at that time still was, oh, that's the first of like a bunch. But then nobody else came. And so that was, at the end, also very, very challenging, felt defeated in some ways. It took me time to get the perspective I have now where, no, you know what? That was a huge win. It might not have been what I wanted at the time, but it was a huge first step that I know from helping people with their businesses, a lot of people just don't ever make. And so I feel really proud to this day still to have made that step, because it was essential to the rest.
There's always something about that first customer, right? As you said, there's a mixed feeling.
Sure, yeah.
Right? It's like, man, it's just one, I hope it's for at least 100. But then, it's the first, the proof of concept, right? It's almost like getting the first customer on Upwork.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I remember when I started on Upwork, it's like, I actually like quit when I first created a profile, and I didn't do nothing about Upwork, and I was like, I just didn't know what to do there, and like, even back then, like I think it was like 2011, I just felt it's jungle, man. It's jungle. It's impossible to get job here. It's impossible. And then you get that first client, it's like, oh my God, man. It doesn't matter, it's $50-$30, right? It's just, it's the first client, man. The gates are open. This is it. I'm like winning big. Yeah. Returning back to your course, this was all online, right? It wasn't like in person while you're living in Bali.
Yeah, and it wasn't even traditionally like what you would call a course. This was more, it was supposed to be a group coaching program. So, weekly sessions, questions and feedback in between each session. And it ended up just being a one-on-one private coaching experience.
Got it.
All online, yes.
Got it. So that person really got you for an entire week.
Yeah, I think at the time it was like I was working with people an incredibly long amount of time, like 3 to 4 months, whereas now we do it in 8 weeks.
So tell me more about the process. Like, so you said back then you were working incredibly long time. What's your setup now? So if someone comes and says, well, there's a lot of people obviously out there who feel like, hey man, I definitely like, there's a lot of too many moving elements, I would say, that you have to get right. And, the truth is, in most cases, they're not. It takes trial and error in it, it just takes time to get it right. Now, if someone wants to work with you, what's your process? Like, how do you take them from where they are to their desired situation?
Yeah. So whether you're brand new to Upwork or you've already earned your first, $100,000, the areas typically a freelancer or agency wants to work on Upwork are going to be the same. How they work on them might differ, but they fall into kind of 4 areas. And these 4 areas are basically what I identified when I got onto Upwork myself at the beginning, when I was doing a lot of competitor research. I was looking at other top performers who are also doing Google advertising, and I was just looking around and just saying, hey, what are these guys? These guys are doing really well. What are they doing? How are they using Upwork? How are they setting up their profile? What are they writing in their proposals? And you contrast that, you compare that to then the people who are struggling, and it's not rocket science. If you do enough work doing this research, you will notice, oh wow, the top performers use it differently than the people who are struggling. Then the areas that we end up working on, there's four of them. So the first one is profile optimization. Okay, optimizing your profile for both Upwork's algorithm and for human beings who are actually going to hire you. Second area we work on is automating notifications for ideal jobs. Nobody's paying you to find the job, so we want to make this process extremely time efficient. And we also want to automate it so that it's easy to be first to apply. That really makes a difference with new freelancers, but it's still an advantage with established freelancers. Then we want to work on proposal sending, which I know you've got an app that helps with this.
This podcast, whether I mention it or not, is brought to you by Proposally. It's brought to you because first, I created Proposally for freelancers just like you who struggle sending winning proposals on Upwork, and really for everyone else who just wants to send Upwork proposals faster. I collaborated with top-selling expert Upworkers to create a growing library of effective and proven Upwork templates. You can use these templates when you apply for jobs on Upwork. Now you can send proposals your clients will love reading and significantly increase your chances of getting hired. And even better, you can do this in a fraction of time. No more digging into your notepad or searching your computer for your best performing cover letter templates. Proposally is built into Upwork's proposal flow. It fills in the blank cover letter section and also screening questions if there are any during your application process. So it's really super easy and intuitive to use. Second, well, I use this tool every day for my own freelance business and it saves me nearly 6 hours per week. I can use this newfound time to improve my business in other ways or make additional income if I want to. That's what I call effective proposals. Quick warning guys, never ever send cookie cutter proposals on Upwork. When you use our expert templates, always add a level of personalization and fill in all the blanks. You definitely don't want to be a freelancer who sends out canned proposal templates and comes across as someone who didn't read the job description and ultimately annoys your clients. Now, if this sounds like a tool you want to use, go to propose.ly/Tom and get 10% off your yearly subscription today.
And for me, proposal sending, it's all about a mixture between being time efficient, but also custom tailored. Is it thoughtful? Is it actually a high quality message? And does it get a high response rate? It's usually, though, it's hard to make something highly tailored, custom quality, but not spend a lot of time on it. So it's about learning to strike that balance expertly. And then the last thing we work on is call handling. How do you show up to your calls with potential clients if you're doing calls? Which most of the time I recommend. Most freelancers probably should be doing calls to decide, like to have that conversation with the client. Do we want to work together? Are you winging it, right? Are you just showing up? Or do you have a structured way of handling those calls that's, again, more effective ultimately at having a client say, yes, I would like to work with you. So those four areas, profiles, notifications for ideal jobs, proposals, call handling. That's happening whether you're new on Upwork, whether you're an expert. But again, how you approach each of those just differs based on your niche and experience level. But that's what I work on with people currently, usually in an 8-week container. So we have 8 weeks to properly work on those areas, test things, refine things, give feedback, and ultimately get better results on Upwork.
Got it. So returning back to step one, Upwork algorithms. I always thought it's kind of like unknown beast. Well, at least for me,
Yeah.
I was never too big for optimizing my profiles for like internal searches. While I knew there is something happening, I could honestly never figure out what it was. But not that I really tried too hard. Can we go into that a little bit more?
Yeah, absolutely. So I love how you said, isn't it a secret, right? Isn't the algorithm, nobody knows how the algorithm works exactly.
Mm.
And that's completely true. Upwork does not transparently show how their algorithm works to rank freelancer profiles. And what we mean by this for anyone listening is when a client searches for graphic designer on Upwork, Upwork's going to give them a list to start of the top 10 people they recommend. And it's favorable if you're the first person because you will get more clicks, more invitations to jobs. So Upwork has an algorithm that decides who's first, who's second, who's third, and so on. But we can look at another algorithm for how we approach this, and this is Google's algorithm. So in the world of search engine optimization, SEO, this is a multi-billion-dollar industry based on SEO professionals helping businesses rank higher on Google, and it's all based on an algorithm that is also opaque. It is not transparent. We don't know how it works, but if you put enough effort into studying what you think affects the algorithm and trying different techniques, of course you can start to figure out some general rules of what works. You might not have the exact formula on how to bake the cookie, but there's still a way to bake the cookie if you put some effort into it, even if you don't have the recipe to start, right? So we're kind of reverse engineering. And so this is a good segue. Part of my background in Google advertising, which is not the same as SEO, but it requires an understanding of SEO. Because I had that foundation getting onto Upwork, I realized, this is like Google, this is like SEO, there is an algorithm. And the same way of, how do SEO professionals approach Google optimization? A lot of that can carry over into Upwork. So yes, it is not clearly written anywhere, but if you spend the time to unravel it, you definitely can find some general best practices, ways of setting up a profile, ways of using Upwork that consistently help you rank higher, get more invitations, and get more hires.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I often hear about people saying, I don't really send any proposals. Like, what? Like, I'm getting hundreds of invitations. Like, all right, like, are we on the same platform? Like, what's happening,
Yeah.
And obviously there is this split, right? So like you could optimize your profile to an extent where you're getting a lot of invitations and not really sending that many proposals. And also there is another route where you just go and send a lot of proposals and not really rely on that. But like, I like what you said, it's striking the medium, right? It's grabbing best of the both worlds. That's really where the key is.
The way I look at invitations is that invitations are the icing on the cake. So in my process that I work on with people, it's completely reliant on the things we actually can control. And you can't control invitations. You can control how you write your profile, how you set your settings so that you increase the likelihood you get invitations. Great. We can control that. Let's work on that. But at the end of the day, relying on invitations, that's a dangerous game because changes to Upwork's algorithm or changes in the world when things like COVID or the war in Ukraine, all these crazy things happen, they affect different niches and volume of invitations. So invitations are volatile to some degree. And so what works best for people is usually going to be a mixture between active proposal sending and then, continue to enjoy any invitations. That's your bonus, right? Whatever comes, we're grateful for. We're like, wow, that's awesome. But I'm not in control of that, so I'm just going to enjoy it. But I am in control of proposal sending. So I'm going to push on that. That's my lever. I have leverage on, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you're saying. Being in control of your lead generation process is just crucially important for any business, not just Upwork, right? Like, if you think about it, Upwork is as any other business, right? Because we are freelancers, solopreneurs generating leads, and all the people who are posting jobs, they're essentially leads. And the fact that you can control your lead generation process in one place, there's like one channel where people are just queuing up to basically take their money. You just have to be specialist enough to do the good work, and they'll happily pay you. That's huge, man. It is absolutely huge. Now, a lot of people struggle with that. They don't really, well, at least what I have found, people don't really consistently make the effort to send out proposals. Do you like? What's your experience on this? Working with many people, like, I guess what I'm trying to understand is there a system for people to make consistent revenue on Upwork? Kind of like a flow or a process that they should follow to get a consistent revenue, instead of like living this feast and famine lifestyle where you're like sending a couple proposals and then not, and then like you getting client and you're all happy, and then you get a downtime.
And like, I guess I'm just going to speak from my personal experience with my process, which I call Upwork Touchpoint Mastery. But I want anyone listening to know this is not the only way of being successful on Upwork. There are many ways to bake a cookie, as we keep using this analogy. This is just one way to make Rob's special double chocolate chip chunk. So, we talked on quickly those 4 areas we work on, right? So profiles, notifications for idle jobs, proposals, and calls. That's like the practical topics we're working on. But it all stems from like a principled understanding of this principle. So the principle is, in Upwork Touchpoint Mastery, that if a client is going to hire someone for a job, normally they're going to have the same touch points with multiple freelancers. And when I say touch point, I just mean they see something about you, they have some sort of interaction with you, there's some sort of impression. And so the touch points normally are, in a hiring process, with multiple freelancers, okay, you and your competitors. They're going to see the proposal message that each freelancer writes. They're going to see the timing of that message, okay, who was up first to apply, who was second, and so on. They're going to see your profile. They're going to see your call booking process if you have one, or you're using like a call scheduling link like Calendly or something similar. And then they're going to have a call with you. All of those little touch points are going to occur with, let's say, 3 to 5 different freelancers per job that gets hired for. And in a lot of niches, they are competitive, right? There's multiple skilled people. There's people with years of experience. They're all good at the thing. Let's say it's graphic design, designing a poster. A lot of people can design a great poster. And actually, a lot of them might have the similar price. So the client who's hiring for their poster design, they end up doing 3 call interviews with 3 different people. They want to pick the best one. They have those touch points with those people. And so Upwork Touchpoint Mastery then is about basically starting to recognize what are all those exact little places the client experiences me. They read something about me. They have an impression of me anywhere. And it's about fully optimizing every single one. It's no space for laziness. It's 10 out of 10. When a client looks at your profile picture compared to somebody else's, yours should be 10 out of 10. When they see the skills you've tagged in your profile, they should perfectly match up. And some of these things individually, people will be like, oh, it doesn't matter that much. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter that much if 1 out of 30 of your profile components isn't perfect. But what does happen is that when you have consistent 10 out of 10, every single little touch point that the client experiences with you, at the end of their 3 interviews, assuming there's 3 capable people, all skilled, all great portfolio, all having a great portfolio, and all having a similar hourly rate, they're going to pick the person that they like the most or that they have the best impression from. And the impression at that point is only on your touch points. You haven't worked together yet. And that is where everyone slacks on Upwork. That's where people are lazy. They don't put the effort in to all those little touch points. And so, yeah, they're like, oh, I don't need to. I make great videos, or I make great posters, and I can show them great posters. Everybody else can. Okay. So how are you standing out then in this early stage of competition? And that principle is basically the way that I approach it.
It is important. It definitely is important to optimize all of these things. And like from your experience, like there are a lot of things, right, that you can optimize for. There's a profile image, and there's a headline, your tagline, and the profile description, portfolio items. Do you think there is anything that is more important than others? Like, as
Yeah.
far as those touch points go, like, I don't know,
Yeah.
what would you say are like top three, for example, people
Sure.
should focus that bring in the most, the biggest return?
Yep. So this is a dangerous question because I know whoever's listening, their takeaway is, oh, okay, I'm just gonna fix those three things. And yes, that's probably where you should start. But if you ignore the rest, then you're gonna be one of the rest. You're not gonna be that standout. So first off, don't just do these top three. Do everything 10 out of 10. That's what's gonna get you a 10 out of 10 result. But if we want to talk about where maximum kind of return comes from, we're going to put ourselves in the shoes of a client. So you can create an Upwork client account for free. You can do this in your freelancer account as well. But then I want you to go to one of the views where you're looking at multiple freelancer profiles. You've searched for whatever your niche is. So if you're, let's use a new example. If you're a accountant, okay, you're going to go on Upwork, search freelancers, type in the keyword accountant. Upwork's going to give you all the list of accountants. Now I want you to pay attention. How much information about each profile is shown on that top level view? It's going to be a small amount. All we're going to see is usually the profile picture, their name, title, first two lines of the description, any stats if they've earned some money and earned reviews, and then the skills they've tagged in their profile. So what is shown is a short excerpt. It's not everything that's in your profile. It's just a highlight. But this highlight, this is like the front page of the newspaper. This is the most valuable space. So whatever's in those little sections, that is the most heavily weighted, because if that part's optimized, then that's going to get you the click. Someone's actually going to click your little profile highlight, and then they'll see your full profile. They're probably not going to hire you, invite you, unless they read your full profile or at least skim through it. Most of the time. There's some exceptions to this. But this first section, that is where your bang for your buck is going to be in terms of what we want to prioritize.
I like what you said, like experiencing Upwork from client's perspective, and
Yeah.
I think it's critical, and it's probably one of the biggest insights that I got about my profile when I started hiring people on Upwork. You know, over the years I've hired close to 200 people on Upwork, and but back then when I realized, oh my God, like, you know, this is how I compare to all the other people, and this is what I've been doing wrong all these years. It was a big revelation.
It makes
For sure.
sense.
Yeah, yeah, and you get to experience what your clients experience, right? Because you just put yourself into client shoes. You really, you see how many people there are. Or even just like, I would suggest people maybe even trying going through that hiring process. I don't know, get someone to help you. If you're not good with English, maybe get someone to help you craft your profile description. Hire a copywriter for like $20 or whatever, and just see how it feels from the client's perspective, right? What struggles they are going through to actually pick someone, and you'll quickly realize, okay, so this is what they're facing, and I should probably fix all of these 30 things or something that Rob told me, because if I have any chances to stand out against everyone else, then yeah, I should better do that. All right,
Yep,
so
I agree.
now seeing from the client's perspective, yeah, that's a big one. Anything else?
Yeah, like there's 101 different things you can focus on. I guess the next kind of high level area you want to work on is doing proper competitor research. So, as you mentioned earlier, the world of Upwork, especially when you're starting out, it's like overwhelming. There's just so much going on. We're not sure where we should focus our efforts, how to get results. And so the highlighted bits of your profile, yes, this is important. But then in general, how do we come up with those or the rest of our profile? And one of the starting points is typically thorough competitor research. So we want to look at other top performers in our niche on Upwork, doing the same type of work as us, earning what we want to be earning or more. And we want to look at enough of those people who match that criteria so that we can start to collect the trends. What are they all doing similarly? And then also examples. Oh, I really like how they wrote this part of their profile. And so we don't want to just look at a couple profiles. Normally, I recommend my clients to look at 20 to 30. More is even better. That's just going to take a ton of time though. And 20 to 30 is probably a sweet spot where you put in, quite a couple of several hours at least, but it's not days and days of work, but you're able to extract those trends and things you like. And from those trends and things you like, if you did a good job with this research, then you've got such a foundation to support you as you actually write your profile, as you update your information, because you've done the work, okay? And now it's just about writing your story. You know how to write it, okay? You have the structure, you have examples, you just have to plug yourself in, okay?
Yeah, for sure. What I like doing, what I like about competitor research, or just understanding the market landscape, is that a lot of people, well, they don't really know how to start, right? And just by, as you said, just by looking at what other people are doing, it will just give you a clear understanding of what it is that you need to do. And sometimes when I hear people saying, oh, I don't know really how much to charge for my services, well, this is another great way how to figure out how much to charge for your services. You know how skilled you are, you know what value you can bring to your clients. Now look at what the top end is doing, what the bottom end is doing, see what the people are in the middle are doing, and just place yourself in one of these three places, and that's how you can figure out what it is that you want to charge, plus all the other benefits that just comes from understanding what it is you're actually playing against, and if you want to have any chances of playing with the best, and great artists steal, right?
Absolutely.
Excellent. All right, so we have two things now. It's seeing yourself from the client's perspective, and then doing competitive research or market research. And then can you give anyone listening here like the third thing that they should be focusing on?
You know what? I'm going to say, while there's a million other like tips and tricks that we could talk about, that those two first things alone are going to take someone several hours, like a handful of hours if they do them properly. So rather than this is actually something I caution my clients with, and people who want to get on Upwork. Like, there's so many things you can do. Those start there, and even if you just did that, that is enough in many cases for you to get your first reviews, get your first clients, or if you're on Upwork, get substantially better results than where you're at now. And then you're in a better spot to start looking at where you should invest your time into optimizing your profile. But I don't want to give people another item on their list because the list is going to get too long. We've already got actually a good chunk. Let's start there would be the suggestion, if that's fair.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. Getting started is better than overloading people with information,
totally.
right?
Yes.
Because there's always information overload, but as you said, just starting somewhere makes a lot of sense. Now, well, you obviously have seen a lot of people gone through your programs. Have you seen any differences between people who go through the program, who implement all these strategies, and between people who still go through the program, implement strategies, and they don't succeed? Is there any patterns at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have worked personally with more than 100 clients one-on-one, and I have more than 27,000 students in one of my courses focused on profile development. And I definitely do see some trends in terms of who's more successful and who's not. So, it's no secret, okay, right? Hard work just in anything pays off. So there's definitely a correlation between top and low performers, people who just in general are putting more effort in, more hours per week, more serious. This is a priority. They're definitely getting better results. The other thing I notice is know-it-alls. Okay, there's a lot of people who, yeah, they are experts in what they do. So they're really good at their technical skill, whether they're an engineer, they're an accountant, they're a graphic designer, web developer. They're good at that thing. And for example, they're like, oh, I've already done, 100 calls. And they're experienced, but they're not professionally trained in how to handle
Mm.
calls, for example. And there's just so much more they have in terms of opportunity for growth. And sometimes people block themselves off. They think they're really truly an expert. They don't need to figure out these things because they've had some level of success, even maybe a high level of success, doing it the way they know how or have experience with. But that level they're at does not mean that's the maximum potential they could be. So that's the next thing is people blocking themselves off. They think they already have it figured out. They think it's already perfect. Um, Often I find that with more of the experts, they struggle with that.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
real thing, man, isn't it? The more success you kind of get, the more you are getting confidence that you are doing something right. But doing something
yeah,
right
right,
doesn't mean it's the most efficient way, right? You can
sure,
do things
yeah,
right the hard way, or you can do things right the easy way, right?
yeah. Um, in general, okay, so the next pitfall is like people skip the competitor research. They're like, oh, I don't need to do that.
Mm.
It's like literally the foundation of my effort with people is it's all based on competitor research. And
Mm.
so if this isn't done properly, either by me, if I'm working with you, or you, if you're working for yourself, then we don't have the foundation because that foundation is showing us this is already what's working by people doing the exact thing you want to be doing. So most of the time, we do not need to reinvent the wheel on Upwork. We've already got so much data, so much helpful examples of what is working, and we just need to learn how to use that, leverage that, adapt that to how we use the platform. Okay.
Yeah, that's solid advice, man. And just we're kind of nearing towards the end of this conversation, and for everyone listening here, maybe I think like, yeah, okay, so I know that I want to take my Upwork career seriously, freelancing seriously, and just like the way I say Upwork is my lead generation seriously, right? And I want to get some help from someone who has a proven system in place that can help me get those results faster. So where do people go and where they can find you?
Yeah, so best way to find me, I'm sure we'll have some show notes so people can check me out there on Upwork directly by searching my name or through the link we'll include. You can
Yeah.
check out my website, robertocrook.com. I'm on LinkedIn. And then if you're looking for an app to automate notifications for idle jobs on Upwork, you can check out leapfrogleads.com. That's the app that I built with one of my ex developer clients specifically for freelancers on Upwork.
Hmm.
Um, I think, too, what people should remember is that when you are ready to invest in someone helping you with your Upwork game, it doesn't always have to be like a huge multi-$1,000 effort. There's different levels of support available for where you're at, whether that's from me or from someone else. So sometimes just spending, $50 to get a professional headshot, maybe that's your first step. And then
Right.
your next step is, a little bit more. $500 gets you the next thing. And then,
Mm.
And as you can invest, you reinvest into yourself, you increase your earning ability. And as that bumps up, great, you can start to access higher levels of support. There's a
Absolutely.
lot of free resources, but the thing you pay with then is your time to sift and find what's legit, what works, and what's not bullshit, basically. So the way to skip that is to pay.
Right. You have to spend money to make money, right? It's just like, as cliche as it sounds, it's one of the foundations of the any business, right? Like whether you paying advertising to get leads, or you buying connects on Upwork, or you paying
Yeah,
someone to
exactly.
help you with improving the forefront of your business. It's just it whenever you invest in your business, you always get back more. That's what I have found for sure. Right, Rob. Look, man. I just feel like there is so much information that you can share. I don't think like even 3, 4, or 5, or 10 hours would be enough to cover everything that's.
8 weeks. We need
Eh,
8 weeks.
yeah, we need 8 weeks, right? And we should be doing stuff every day. I mean, it's been amazing, man. A lot of cool
Thanks, dude.
stuff, and I hope listeners not only will hear this and forget about it, but they'll actually take these few things and actually go do stuff to their Upwork profiles, and stand out of the crowd.
Absolutely.
All right, Rob. Well,
Yep.
this was amazing. I wish you all the best with whatever it is you're doing, and helping Upworkers really up leveling. I think this is a great mission you're doing, because I personally believe the better everyone is on Upwork, the more professional we are, the less competition there will be, and the entire marketplace is just going to rise up, which is important for everyone, right? Because no one really wants to have a race for the lowest fees, right?
To the bottom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all want to make more money, work with better clients, and the way to do it is just to up level as a big community. All right, excellent. You take care, and I'll see you around.
Thanks, Thomas.